This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Max and Mia podcast. I'm Max.
And I'm Mia. Really glad you're here with us today.
You know, before we get into anything, I just want to say thank you genuinely. We know you have a lot of options when it comes to podcasts, and the fact that you choose to spend your time here with us, that actually means something.
It really does. And whether this is your first time tuning in or you've been with us for a while, we appreciate you either way.
So Mia, I have to bring this up because I cannot stop thinking about it. I was watching this nature documentary last night, and there was this moment where a bird was mimicking human speech, and it was honestly unsettling. Like, it knew exactly what it was doing.
No, wait. Was it actually forming sentences or just sounds?
That's the thing. It was putting words together in a way that made sense. And I kept thinking, at what point does copying something become actually understanding it?
That is such a weird rabbit hole to go down at night. But I get it. There's something about imitation that feels almost intentional, you know? Like it's not random.
Exactly. And that actually connects really well to what we have for you today.
It does, actually, because today we are talking about something a lot of English learners deal with, sounding too basic. And we mean that in a very specific way. You know your grammar, you know the vocabulary, but somehow you still sound like you're reading from a textbook.
And that's not a bad place to be. But there's a next level, and that's what we're going for today. We're going to walk you through several real conversations that show you how to close that gap and start sounding more like someone who actually lives in the language.
So, if you're ready, let's get into it.
All right, so let's start with something that trips up a lot of people, even those who have been studying English for years: phrasal verbs. And not just phrasal verbs in general, but specifically the separable ones. Mia, when you hear separable phrasal verbs, what comes to mind?
Honestly, a headache. Because when I first encountered them, nobody really explained the logic behind them. It was just, here's a list, memorize it. And that approach gets you nowhere.
Exactly. So let's actually break it down. A phrasal verb is basically a verb combined with a particle, which is usually a preposition or an adverb, and together they create a new meaning. Something like turn on, pick up, or figure out. Now, separable means the verb and the particle can be pulled apart, and the object goes right in between them.
So instead of saying turn on the lights, you could also say turn the lights on. Both work. That's the flexibility separable phrasal verbs give you.
Right. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part most textbooks gloss over. That flexibility, it disappears the moment you use a pronoun.
Oh, this is the golden rule. If you swap the lights for them, you cannot say turn on them. That sounds completely off to a native speaker. The pronoun has to go in the middle, no exceptions. Turn them on. Full stop.
Think of it this way. If you're using the actual name of the object, you have two options: turn on the music or turn the music on. Both are fine. But the second you use a pronoun like it, them, him, or her, there's only one slot it fits in, and that's the middle. Turn it on. Pick it up. Figure it out.
And honestly, once that clicks, a lot of things start making sense. Like, you stop second-guessing yourself mid-sentence.
Now there's another category worth touching on, and these are what I'd call the clingy ones. Inseparable phrasal verbs, With these, the verb and the particle stay together no matter what. The object always goes at the end, and it doesn't matter if it's a noun or a pronoun.
A good example is run into. You can't say run someone into, it just doesn't work. You say, I ran into my old professor, or I ran into her. The particle sticks to the verb like they made a deal.
And then there's a third type that doesn't get nearly enough attention. 3-part phrasal verbs. These are always inseparable, and they're a little longer. Something like come up with, as in, she came up with a brilliant idea. You wouldn't split that up under any circumstance.
And the funny thing is, come up with is one of those that native speakers use all the time without even thinking about it. For example, I can't come up with an excuse. He came up with a solution. It sounds natural because, well, it is natural.
So here's a practical tip that actually works. When you learn a new phrasal verb, don't just write it down alone. Write it with an object already in the sentence, or even better, write 2 versions of it. Instead of just noting turn on, write turn the mic on, turn it on. That way your brain stores the structure visually, not just the words.
Because the goal isn't to memorize lists. The goal is to internalize the mechanics so that when you're mid-conversation, your brain isn't running a grammar check. It just knows.
And that right there is the difference between sounding like a textbook and sounding like someone who actually thinks in English.
All right, so now that we've laid that foundation, let's hear it in action. We put together an audio clip of 2 friends having a completely normal conversation. No scripted pauses, no slow motion English, just 2 people talking.
And as you listen, see if you can catch the phrasal verbs naturally showing up in the conversation. Don't stress about catching every single one. Just let it flow and notice how they fit in without drawing attention to themselves.
The 2 people you'll hear are Brendan and Cora. They're catching up after not seeing each other for a while. That's it. Nothing dramatic. Just listen.
Okay, so you actually showed up. I honestly thought you were going to bail on me again.
Come on, I bailed on you once, one time, and I had a solid reason.
You said your cat was acting weird.
She was. I came home and she'd knocked everything off the counter and just sat there staring at me. That's not normal.
That's just a cat, Brendan.
Anyway, how have you been? It feels like forever since we actually caught up properly.
Right? Honestly, it's been a lot. I've been trying to figure out this whole freelance thing, and I don't know. Some weeks it works out. Some weeks I'm just staring at my inbox hoping something comes up.
How long has it been now? Like 6 months?
8, almost. And don't get me wrong, I love not having a boss breathing down my neck, but the inconsistency messes with your head after a while, you know?
Yeah, I get that. Did that project you were telling me about ever come through? The branding one?
Oh, that. So the client kept putting it off, and I was about to give up on it entirely. And then, out of nowhere, last week, she just reached out, said she wanted to move forward.
No way!
I know. So I had to drop everything and put together a proposal basically overnight. I was up until 2 in the morning.
Did you pull it off?
Sent it. Haven't heard back yet, but yeah, I think so. It felt solid. I just have to wait it out at this point.
That's kind of your whole life right now, isn't it? Just waiting things out.
Honestly, yeah. But I'm getting better at it. I used to just spiral the second things got uncertain. Now I try to find something else to focus on and let it go until I actually have information.
That's growth. Genuinely.
Look at me, thriving. Okay, what about you? Last time we talked, you were dealing with that whole situation at work. Did that ever get sorted out?
Sort of. My manager and I kind of cleared the air, which helped, but I've been thinking it over a lot lately, and I don't know, I think I might be ready to move on.
Seriously?
I'm not going to rush into anything, but yeah, I've been putting it off because it feels like a big deal, and I guess it is, but at some point you just have to face it.
Okay, now who's the one growing?
Don't make it weird.
Too late.
All right, so how did that feel? Did any of those phrasal verbs catch your attention?
And we mean that genuinely. Not in a quiz kind of way. More like, did anything sound familiar? Did you notice a moment where you thought, oh, I've heard that before, but never really paid attention to how it was used?
Because that's actually the goal here. We're not asking you to pause the episode and write down a list. We're asking you to start noticing. There's a big difference between those two things.
Brendan and Cora weren't thinking about grammar. They were just talking. And that's the point. Those phrasal verbs weren't on display. They were just part of the conversation. That's where you want to get to eventually.
And eventually is the key word. Nobody picks this up overnight. Nobody. Not even people who move to an English-speaking country and are surrounded by it every single day. It takes time, and that's completely fine.
Language is one of those things where the progress is real, but it's not always visible. It builds quietly. And then one day you catch yourself using something naturally, and you think, wait, when did that happen?
So be patient with yourself. That's not a cliche. It's genuinely how it works. One conversation at a time, one structure at a time, step by step.
Exactly. All right. Let's keep moving because we have more ground to cover today.
Okay, next up is something that comes up constantly in everyday English, and yet so many learners either avoid it or get it slightly wrong. We're talking about causative verbs, specifically using have and get to talk about things you arrange for someone else to do.
And this one is actually more intuitive than it sounds once you see the logic. So, let's set the scene. Imagine your laptop stops working. You're not a technician, so you take it somewhere and someone fixes it for you. How do you describe that?
A lot of learners would say, I repaired my computer, which grammatically is fine, but it sends the wrong message entirely. It says you did it yourself. You sat down, opened it up, and fixed it with your own hands.
Right, but what actually happened is that you arranged for someone else to do it. And English has a very clean, very specific way to express that. I had my computer repaired. Or alternatively, I got my computer repaired. Same idea, slightly different feel.
And here's the structure. Because once you see it laid out, it clicks immediately. You have the subject, then have or get, then the thing, then the verb in past participle. Subject, have or get, object, past participle. That's it.
She had her hair cut. We got the apartment painted. He's having his car serviced. The structure doesn't change. What changes is just the tense of have or get, and everything else stays exactly the same.
That's actually the part that makes this so manageable. The object and the past participle are locked in. You don't touch them. You only move the tense of that first verb.
So, if you want to say it in the past, I had my roof fixed last month. Present, I'm having my roof fixed right now. Future, I'm going to have my roof fixed next week. Same bones, different time.
And the same works with get. I got my phone screen replaced. I need to get my documents translated. She's been getting her nails done every 2 weeks. It flows. It sounds natural. And more importantly, it says exactly what you mean.
Now, have tends to sound a little more neutral and formal, while get has a slightly more casual feel to it. In most everyday situations, they're interchangeable, but that's a small nuance worth keeping in the back of your mind.
The big takeaway here is this. If someone else is doing the action for you, whether you paid them, asked them, or arranged it in any way, this is the structure you reach for. It's precise, it's natural, and it immediately signals to anyone listening that you know what you're doing with the language.
All right, time for our second audio clip. Same deal as before. 2 people, real conversation, no slow English.
This time, you're going to hear causative verbs showing up the way they actually do in real life. Not in a textbook exercise, not highlighted or underlined, just woven into the conversation the way a native speaker would use them without giving it a second thought.
The 2 voices today are Garrett and Simone. They're roommates dealing with a bit of a home situation. You'll see what we mean. Go ahead and listen.
Okay, so I finally did it. I called the landlord.
About the leak? It's about time, honestly.
I know. I kept putting it off because every time I've dealt with him, it turns into this whole thing. But yeah, I called him.
And what did he say?
He said he's going to have someone come in and look at it this week, which I'll believe it when I see it, but progress, I guess.
Honestly, that bathroom ceiling has been making me nervous for weeks. I don't want to get in the shower one morning and have the whole thing come down on me.
Right? And the thing is, we should have had it checked months ago when we first noticed that stain. That was our mistake.
Yeah, we kind of just hoped it would sort itself out, which, spoiler, it did not.
It very much did not. Anyway, also, while I was at it, I mentioned the front door because that lock has been stiff for so long.
Oh, good. I'd been meaning to bring that up. I nearly got my fingers jammed in it last week trying to force it open.
Oh, no.
It was fine, yeah, it needs fixing. Are they getting that done too?
He said he'd have it replaced by the end of the month, which probably means 6 weeks from now, but still.
Yeah, that tracks. Hey, did you ever get your bike fixed, by the way? You were talking about that 2 months ago.
No, I need to take it in. I just haven't gotten around to it. I was going to get the chain replaced and the brakes adjusted, but then everything got busy and it's just been sitting there judging me.
Your bike is judging you?
It absolutely is. It has a very specific look.
Okay, well maybe once the apartment stuff gets sorted, you can focus on that.
That's the plan. Oh, also, I'm getting my hair done on Saturday, so I'll be out most of the afternoon.
Nice. Where are you going?
That place on Mercer Street. I had it done there once before, and it was really good. The last place I tried was a disaster. I don't even want to get into it.
What happened?
I asked for a trim, Garrett, and I came out looking like a completely different person.
Okay, that's rough.
It was rough. I had to have it fixed somewhere else the next day. It cost me twice as much.
That is genuinely painful.
So yeah, sticking with Mercer Street from now on. Lesson learned.
Noted. All right, do you want to order food tonight, or are we actually cooking?
I vote order. I'm not in the headspace to cook.
Honestly, same. I'll look something up.
Okay, so Garrett and Simone. Pretty relatable situation, right?
Very. And what I love about that conversation is that the causative structure kept coming up in the most mundane, everyday moments. Fixing a leak, replacing a lock, getting a haircut. These aren't dramatic situations. They're just Tuesday.
And that's exactly the point. This isn't a structure you pull out for formal writing or job interviews. It's something you'd use with your roommate while figuring out what to order for dinner.
Did you catch the moment where Simone said she had her hair done somewhere and it went wrong, so she had to have it fixed somewhere else the next day? 2 causative structures back to back, completely naturally in the middle of a story about a bad haircut.
No textbook is going to give you that. That's just how people actually talk. And the more you expose yourself to that kind of natural usage, the more it starts to feel like yours.
So again, don't pressure yourself to produce it perfectly right away. Start by noticing it in shows, in conversations, in podcasts like this one. Recognition always comes before production.
Always. All right, before we wrap up today, we want to take a second and talk directly to you.
If this episode gave you something, even just one thing that made a little more sense than it did an hour ago, then it did its job. And if you want more of this, the most straightforward way to support what we do is to subscribe wherever you're listening right now.
It genuinely makes a difference. The more people find this podcast, the more we can keep putting out content like this. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now is a good time.
And if you want to go a step further, leave us a comment. Tell us what clicked for you today, what you're still working through, or what you'd like us to cover next. We actually read those, and they shape what we make.
Some of our best episode ideas have come directly from listeners. So don't hold back. Drop something in the comments. We're listening.
Okay, and before we go, we want to leave you with something we genuinely believe.
Learning a language is one of the most demanding things you can ask of your brain. It's not just memorizing words. It's rewiring the way you think, the way you express yourself, the way you process the world around you. That takes time. Real time.
And there are going to be days where it feels like nothing is sticking, where you have a conversation and walk away thinking, why couldn't I find the words? Why did I freeze? Those days are frustrating, and we're not going to pretend otherwise.
But here's what those days don't show you. The progress that's happening underneath the surface. Because it is happening. Every conversation, every episode, every moment you spend paying attention to the language is building something, even when you can't see it yet.
So keep going. Not because it's easy, but because the version of you that can move through the world in English, that can connect with people, tell stories, make jokes, and express yourself fully, that version of you is absolutely worth the effort.
Step by step, that's all it takes.
All right, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. It genuinely means a lot.
We'll be back with another episode soon. Until then, take what you heard today and carry it with you. Not just in your notes, in your head, in your conversations, in the way you start paying attention.
That's right. It was a pleasure spending time with you.
Take care, everyone.